Thank you so much for the panelists for joining. My name is Scott Myers, and I'm the program manager at Venture for ClimateTech, and I'll be facilitating the webinar today. We have a great session in store for you, so strap in. Just a few logistics before I get started. There is a chat function, which all of you are doing such a great job, letting us know where you're calling in from: Dallas, Southern California, Ithaca, New York. It's close to us in Rochester. So that's great. There's also a Q&A function here on webinars, and any questions that come up throughout this process, please throw them in the Q&A section. That just is a better way for us to keep track of any questions that come on up. So feel free to put any Q&A in there. What I will be doing is I'm going to be going through kind of an abbreviated version of a webinar that we hosted 2 weeks ago. It's just a kind of informational esque slide deck about our program. It's going to be very abbreviated because I really want to get to the meat and potatoes of this webinar, which is the Q&A section with our esteemed alumni here. And I will go ahead and introduce them a bit after, right before we jump into the Q&A. Chris, I'm not sure if you meant to raise your hand, but if not, I'm going to chug on through. Feel free to jump off or jump on camera if you meant to do that. All right, so again, going to quickly go over a informational slide deck that we had prepared. So we're talking a bit about our 2025 cohort. Little bit about us if you don't know already. Not sure how everyone found this webinar, but just to quickly go over, V4C, Venture for ClimateTech, is a nonprofit accelerator helping to secure a brighter and more sustainable future by supporting a diverse set of founders with a coalition of investors, mentors, technical experts, working to catalyze climate tech solutions. We're a 6-month program. It's fully virtual outside of one in-person showcase down in New York City during Climate Week. And we accept 20 teams in per cohort, and each team can receive up to $50K in funding. And of course, we are funded by NYSERDA, the New York State Energy and Research Development Authority. We're part of the NYSERDA ecosystem here in New York State. A little bit about our accomplishments here. We've worked with over 4 cohorts, almost 60 startups. And all in all, we've had teams raise over $100 million in total funding, which we're very, very proud of. And you can see different organizations that have partnered with our teams post-program or pre-program. We're very happy about the results, as we're a very high-touch program. A little bit about a little glimpse of our team. This slide deck will be sent around. Actually, an elongated slide deck is going to be sent around to everyone who's participated. I implore all of you all to go through and check out our team's LinkedIns along with our esteemed board. We got some amazing, diverse, heavy hitters here within our board, and they really help us facilitate an amazing program. There's 4 key sectors within New York State that we focus on here at Venture for ClimateTech, and this has come down from NYSERDA and the priorities within the New York State Energy and Research Development Authority and our climate goals here in New York State. And again, I'm sprinting through these. Just wanted to reiterate that an elongated version of the slide deck will be sent out after we're completed here to anyone who's viewing the webinar. As I mentioned, we're a 6-month virtual high-touch accelerator. We're split into 3 phases. Our teams receive up to $50K in non-dilutive funding. We recruit globally. I know I mentioned New York State a bunch. We do recruit globally, though our applicants need to have a New York State lens or potential market. We're pre-seed, seed stage. If you're familiar with TRL, kind of our sweet spot is around TRL 4 through 7, but really open in the application process to moving outside of that sweet spot. So please feel free to apply or reach out to us if you have any specific questions about that. As I mentioned, we have 3 phases. It starts in mid-May to the end of July. Within the first phase, 20 companies are all awarded $10,000 in non-dilutive fundings. We focus on the curriculum is customer discovery, go-to-market plans, GHG impact analysis, IP strategy, et cetera, as these alumni can attest. We really focus on and tailor a curriculum and bring in some amazing speakers to do that. So we really run the gambit here and try to get as much in as possible and work with our teams to focus on content that's relevant. We also have a mentor matching process that's with a group of EIRs through a NYSERDA program, as well as ad hoc mentors. So we're very happy on not only the mentorship we provide, but our outside mentors. And up to 20 companies approved to pitch at a market opportunity pitch with our advisory board. So there is a kind of a phase gate approach into phase 2 where you will pitch out to our board for that. And then phase 2 additional funding is provided there. We continue a pretty intensive curriculum, and then we have our in-person showcase in New York City during Climate Week, and that's an investor showcase. And then phase 3, there's not as much detailed day-to-day and week-to-week curriculum in our phase 3, but we're still available to all of our teams. And there's also that additional funding to access at the end of our phase 3. And just a bit, I just wanted to cover quickly kind of a week at a glance at an average week within the program. It's on average around 7 to 12 hours of high touch support. That's split between cohort stand-ups, curriculum, one-on-one coaching, and then the deliverables and things that we assign through our curriculum. So just wanted to be transparent in that sense that it is relatively high touch, and that's the amount of hours you'd be spending. And then unlimited mentor meetings, right? And I just wanted to do a quick overview. Again, I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but want to keep repeating this in case others join. But an elongated version of this overview slide deck will be sent out to all of you. But still wanted to give you an idea of timeline here, especially the applications close. That's really sneaking up on us. So our applications close on Friday, March 7th. So keep that in mind. We have a part of our down selection process is a boot camp that is scheduled on April 21st through April 24th. That's a bit intensive. It's kind of a snapshot of our program. Again, you'll get more info about that. And then there's a screening committee where teams will pitch out to our screening committee to get accepted into the program. And that's Wednesday and Thursday, March 30th through April 1st. I'm going to cruise along here. Applicant must have a technology that's tackling GHG emissions, have a coachable team, driven and self-aware, and have a market impact within New York State. And then we go on a bit to talk a bit more about key application aspects. I implore you to go over this slide deck after it's sent to you, and then reach out to us with any questions or join another webinar that we have scheduled. And here is, if you wanted a QR code to pull up the actual application. But now the fun part, why we all joined, I get to introduce some amazing alumni and facilitate some questions related to them. Again, if you have any questions for our alumni, please throw them in to the Q&A feature with the webinar, and then we'll get to that after. We have 3 alumni here. I was pleasantly surprised that Gianluca joined us, so thanks so much for joining us, Gianluca. So we have 3 alumni here, which is incredible. First and foremost, I wanted to introduce Pauliina. She's the CEO and co-founder at Calectra. Calectra was founded through the DOE's Cradle to Commerce program, and they're on a mission to electrify industrial heat with its thermal storage technology. Next, I wanted to introduce Manny. Manny is a co-founder and CEO at Plantaer, where he develops sustainable building solutions that merge nature with architecture. And lastly, we have Gianluca, who I did not prepare a 1 or 2 line intro for. So Gianluca, and no one's better than introducing yourself than you. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and Arculus quickly?
Absolutely. Thanks, Scott. Hello, everyone. Gianluca Roscioli, CEO and founder of Arculus Solutions. And we bring to market a solution to protect natural gas pipelines in order to transport CO2 or hydrogen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gianluca. Well, I'm gonna jump right in to the first question here, and I'm gonna ask Pauliina to start, and then Gianluca and Manny will answer this afterwards. But can you all tell us about your company, your motivation behind it? So to get us going here, yeah, just let us know about your company and the motivation to jump on in with the project.
Yeah, thank you, Scott, for the introductions, and hi everyone. Also from my side, excited to be, sharing our experiences from the past year's Venture for Climate Tech cohorts as Calectra. Yeah, so at Calectra, we are on a mission to electrify high temperature industrial heating, and we're doing that with the help of a thermal storage system. Basically, the core idea is that we take in low cost, low carbon electricity when it's available, and then store that as heat in this container of bricks that we are developing at 1800 degrees Celsius. So we heat up these bricks with the help of electricity up to 1800 degrees Celsius. We store this low cost electricity as heat from several hours or days, and then deliver the heat from the storage and pipe it to the industrial process, like a cement kiln that requires that high temperature heat with a very high round trip efficiency, over 90%. So in this way, really providing low cost, low carbon, high temperature heat for industries like cement, steel, chemicals, glass, and those kinds of. And the motivations behind building Calectra, well, both like Nate Baker, my co-founder, and we are like motivated by the climate impact. I personally think that building a company with the background that I have, having first been an operator in an early stage startup, then being an investor, then built a consultancy that focused on deep tech and hardware, climate and energy innovation, building a deep tech climate energy startup was like, it's definitely a high risk thing to do when you're thinking about impact. But if we can pull it off, I feel like individually I'm able to make the biggest contribution to making a dent in the climate crisis as possible. It's also fascinating. You have to learn so much every single day. Can be a little tiring, but I'm motivated by the learning, and no single day looks like the same. I'll pass it off to either Manuel or Gianluca.
Hey, Manny, why don't you jump on in?
Yeah, I can go. Hey everyone, I'm Manuel. One of the co-founders of Plantaer, and we're creating sustainable building solutions. Specifically, what we're creating is a low carbon, zero maintenance green roof and wall system. One of the biggest problems with green walls and green infrastructure in cities is that they require a lot of maintenance. They require soil bolt onto a structure, and that's why we have this major separation between nature and our cities today. So basically, we're creating a completely new way of planting our cities, which is by creating concretes that mimic mossy stones in the forest. So they basically have this ability to interact with nature and create this like thin layer that could be fireproof, that doesn't require any maintenance. And this comes from a very strong connection to nature itself, having grown up in Cuba, but at the same time, deep training in civil engineering, architecture, and building science. So it's been a way of collecting my entire team's skills into one product for high impact. And I'm driven mostly by urban health. My freshman year of college, I worked on creating self-sustaining vertical gardens, and I nearly dropped out of college to actually pursue that. But I decided to keep going. I finished college, and I knew I needed to come up with some sort of solution to green the built environment.
Great, thanks, Manny. And Gianluca?
Sorry, was muted. So again, what we do at Arculus is commercializing this coating that we developed at MIT. And our goal is to apply it on the internal surface of natural gas pipelines so that you can either extend the lifetime of these assets or retrofit them for CO2 transportation. or start blending hydrogen at any percentage up to pure 100% hydrogen. So we spun out in 2022, and it's been a long journey, but we are lucky enough to get an Explorer grant and a Breakthrough Energy Innovator Fellowship that gave us a kick with non-dilutive funding. And after that, we joined AXO, that is the incubator run by SOSV, and that was a strategic decision so that we could get more help in developing robots. And right now, we are about to finalize, fingers crossed, a $5 million seed round.
Amazing. That's exciting time, Gianluca.
So long.
Next question is a bit briefer, but we wanted to make sure to add this because we have taken teams kind of from all around the gambit at stage wise. So we were curious in how each one of you would describe where your companies were at what stage your companies were at when you joined the program. And I like this flow, and we're going to run with it. So we'll go Pauliina, Manny, Gianluca.
Right. So we joined the Venture for ClimateTech program as Calectra. I think it started in April, right? Somewhere at that time. Anyways, during the springtime, when we joined, we were in the middle of fundraising, just like scrambling and like trying to get whatever, the funding so that we could continue building. Because I think at the time, like, yeah, it was my co-founder and we had raised like 50K from an investor that wanted to write an early check. And so we had just like, we were scrambling and like trying to just get forward. Technology wise, my co-founder, Nate, developed the technology concept during his PhD at UC Berkeley, Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. But we knew that there was an initial prototype, but we had to do a lot of, still like technical development for that core sort of technology concept in order to get to the next level. Yeah, very super early stage.
Yeah, I was actually even on an earlier stage. Our team was actually still bootstrapping, and we actually thought our technology readiness level was at a 6 or 7. And as we were joining the program, we realized we were at a 3 or 4, and it was yeah. So as we applied, we got in. Once we got in, we decided to stop bootstrapping, and basically we had $0 to keep going. So that was our stage, and yeah.
We were in a little bit of a better shape. Although now I spent the past 9 months of fundraising, so if you were asking me in March when we joined, was a very green future. Now it's a very pessimistic view. So I don't know. I would postpone the current status to after we close this round, which again, I hope it's going to be by the end of the month. But at the time, we were already out of university of about 2 years. We had a chemical laboratory. I mean, we still have a chemical laboratory in Rockville, Maryland, and the mechatronics lab in Newark, New Jersey. We are 4, now we are 6. And we already had a product set to become an MVP as soon as we closed the round. The status of the tech didn't improve much because we still need the money from the round to finalize the MVP. But the connections, I mean, I'll go deeper as soon as Scott asks because for sure it's one of the questions.
Yeah.
The connections that we developed during the program were definitely, I mean, more than helpful. They were essential, I would say.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the three of you being so transparent because, and I think all three of you reference numbers, TRL numbers, and that can, look a bit different for each type of technology and things of that sort. So it's really good to hear from three founders in varying aspects of their climate journey and their company's journey. So I appreciate the transparency there. So this next question, a lot of, and I want to give a little background before the question is, it's a pretty straightforward question in general, but there are so many different issues and problems that founders face, especially early on. And so we wanted to take a step back. And I know it is really only a year ago, but in startup world, that's like 6 years. So it can feel like forever ago. So if you can do your best, can you describe the problems your company was facing at the beginning of the program when you joined V4C? And just in general, why that encouraged you to join the program. So describe any problems your company was facing at the beginning and why you joined V4C. Pauliina, if you're open to answering, you can go first.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm gonna give a very honest and straightforward answer. And it was money. Like I said, like we were fundraising and we were really struggling. It was hard, like to get the funding together, which we did good in the end. But yeah, it was like, oh, like non-dilutive funding. Great. It's just super critical, especially as a hardware startup, as a deep tech, to be able to access also non-dilutive funding. So that was really like the core problem that we had at the beginning. We didn't have money. We needed money to continue building, the team and getting the technology to a higher TRL level. Yeah, but we also gotta say, like, we had heard good references and good things about the Venture for Climate Tech program from the previous year's founders. So we're like, oh, like they're saying good things. Oh, there's non-dilutive funding. This sounds like a win-win. Let's do it.
Yeah, I can say the same thing, but if I go deeper into the root problem, it was because of our network. So we basically had just been like two guys working on like for 8 months on a prototype, and so we were still working just the two of us, and like we had been reaching out to people on LinkedIn, but like really didn't have any network whatsoever when it came to climate tech, when it came to any commercialization, manufacturing, anything related to actual business. So what we were looking for was just the introduction to that broader climate network. And luckily, we were based in New York as well. So like the Venture for Climate Tech being based in New York basically opened doors to investment managers, to all kinds of introductions and mentors and just people near us that knew a lot about our technology. And that also allowed us to start applying for additional non-dilutive funding and additional sources that basically just gave us most of what we needed.
Instead, I was looking for commercialization support. So our plan was pretty much known. I mean, we have known what we need to do since almost since we started. The plan hasn't changed much. We pivoted just a tiny bit on the application because we started with hydrogen and we quickly found out that hydrogen is going to happen later on. So we pivoted towards CO2 as a beachhead market. But the plan has been laid out, and the reason why I joined Venture for ClimateTech was because I need help with finding a way to commercialize, so finding partners, and that's what I focused on. Then turned out to be that those partners wanted to invest in the company, so related to fundraising, was a good twist of events.
Great. Thank you all for that. For this next question, I'm gonna throw in a curveball to our flow here. You're gonna double dip here. We're gonna go Gianluca, Manny, and then Pauliina to keep everyone on their toes. So next is, for Gianluca to start, can you describe the main differences between yourself and your company from the beginning of the program and when you graduated?
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm sorry, I haven't seen if there was a script of questions, so I'm not prepared.
Oh, no problem. Manny, did you maybe wanna go first?
No, I mean, I can,
Oh, you got it?
I can answer. Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
No issues at all. So at the beginning of the program, I was a little bit naive because I thought we could have done everything by ourselves. So that was the plan back in March last year. Then we did again some customer discovery, mostly during an ARPA conference where I met with a lot of oil and gas industries and found out that you cannot go and operate in an actual pipeline by yourself as a startup unless you have a master service agreement, insurance, and plenty of other things that takes easily years to set up. So that's when we switched, and instead of looking for just pipe cleaning companies that could clean the pipes before we coated them, we started looking for partners that could also apply the coating for us. Turns out that the two can be the same, so that was good news. The biggest thing that changed was the entire mentality from Arculus, which is not simple. I mean, it's not a simple switch. It was from becoming this gigantic corporation with plenty of personnel that we had to hire to do the work on the field to just becoming a company that partners with different pipe cleaning companies, which there are plenty around, and you help those companies deliver your product. So you can keep a smaller company. Of course, you need to share the revenue that you generate, but it also drastically reduces your costs.
Great.
My turn?
Yep,
Yeah.
your turn, Manny.
Yeah, I think it was mostly about mindset. Before joining the program, I believe my team and we were very focused on developing the technology and just getting it to really, really an incredible level to like fully work and just like focus on technology development, and commercialization was just gonna happen on its own. So that was one of our biggest misconceptions, and we just thought, and the team basically just changed that entire mindset into thinking that to think about getting to market as soon as possible. That priority number one as a startup founder is to get to market as soon as possible with an MVP that works within the climate tech standards, but just works. And that's priority number one. And I believe that allowed us to do a lot of customer discovery, look for pilot funding, and continue to like fund the technology so we can get it to that level, so we can start selling it, and so we can start writing commercialization agreements. And that's something that we had no idea we were going to have to do at the beginning of the program.
Yeah. And yeah, for us, for Calectra, well, I guess like the obvious biggest shift was like we had funding at the end of the program. Yeah, like I said, like we had raised 50K off, the first safe notes when we, joined the program. By the end of the program, we had raised 1.6 million as of our pre-seed round. And we had also tapped into 450K more non-dilutive funding as well from other programs and grants and awards. Yeah, it worked well. Just took a lot of effort. The other thing that I think changed was that at the beginning, when we joined the program, we were just like in this survival mode of like just getting to the living sort of like day by day, like scrambling, trying, I said like it was about survival. It was about like successfully being able to fundraise. And so we did have some structure in terms of like KPIs and like goals and the milestones, but obviously for the technology development, but in terms of like, the company, like we did have a roadmap, obviously going forward, but like the day-to-day operations were very much like ad hoc. It's like, oh, what needs to get done today? Throughout, one of the key things I think we learned, which was really helpful, like with the Venture for ClimateTech program, was like these weekly one-on-one meetings that were like curated like for us And they were like these, KPI metrics that we had to like come up and agree together. And then there was a check-in, next week of like, hey, did you achieve this KPI? How did it go? How should we change this? And that's actually what we kept doing also after the program, and what we are now taking to the next level as we have, growing team as well. So we have like dailies, we have weeklies, we have monthly goals, we have the roadmap, the roadmap to the seed Series A, which has been very helpful. I'm going to add a bonus thing as well. What we learn is like when you're presenting, and it's a pitch, make the fonts big. Like they have to be huge. This is what we learned when preparing for the demo day. And we're still, and we're bringing the learnings forward to our other accelerators and communities where we are participating.
Sometimes it's the little things, right? Like as Gianluca will remember,
Yeah.
Making sure the clicker has proper batteries so it doesn't, while you're on stage, mess with the transitions. That's a learning that we took at Venture for ClimateTech. Make sure that clicker has good batteries and the receiver's close.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. So next question is a two-parter. So the first part is, what is one thing, if there are any, that surprised you about the program? That you went in, you attended all these awesome webinars, the team knocked it out of the park to set expectations, but you were still surprised about something about the program. And then the second part is, what was the most challenging part of the program and why? So first part, if there's anything that surprised you, what is that about the program? And the second part is, what was the most challenging part of the program and why?
Yep.
Manny, you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go. I think the most challenging part is that the team has very deep expertise about almost everything from it within climate tech as for what it is for, like from manufacturing to raw materials to supply to pitching to everything that you would need for a manufacturing climate tech company. They have the knowledge for. You can ask, like we were asking in group meetings about how to process microcrystalline cellulose, and some people were actually answering. So that was very surprising from the team, and that allows you to like just ask anything that you need, and they'll be able to direct you. And the most challenging part is that it does require some time. So we were learning a lot and applying what we were learning. So like sometimes we couldn't really go like completely on our own, but we were being guided. And at some point in the program, you get to a point where you don't really need the team on a daily basis anymore, and you start running on your own. And as you onboard the program, you start producing an insane amount of work, which is both surprising and at the same time is challenging because it takes a few months to get to that level.
And then Pauliina or Gianluca, either one next. Yeah, Gianluca, why don't you go?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, and this is kind of also a recommendation. So the most difficult, which is also the most beneficial part, is that you really need to put time in the program. So don't take it easily because it's 6 months, and if you have just started your journey, you're gonna be so busy. I mean, I remember at the beginning it was when I launched the company was not really busy with respect to the PhD, at least. I mean, nobody knows you. You don't have much to do on a daily basis. You find yourself most of the time being able to read other papers that you put away during your PhD. And the more you start talking to people, the more introductions you get, the busier you get, the more you start to travel. And the goal is to still put time in the program. This I mean, you will find out that it's beneficial because in the weekly meeting, how can I explain it? It's different from anything else that you have experienced before. That's what I felt. Because there are people that are completely disinterested. I mean, they don't have any equity in your company, so it's not like they are pushing you in a direction or another. but there are still people that have way more experience and they have gone through what you are going through, and they're telling you things straight up in the face if you're doing something wrong, or if they think that you should change directions and things like that. This means that it requires work, because if they tell you go and interview, go and meet with this person, you need to go and meet with that person. It's not like you can go back the week after and say, oh, I didn't have time. So find the time, put effort in it. It's 6 months, but it's completely worth it.
Okay. And then Pauliina, last but not least on that question of,
Yeah.
yeah, go right ahead.
Well, I think what surprised me, the first thing that comes to my mind is really the demo day, like how incredibly helpful that was. Like I was honestly like you never know like when you go and pitch to a crowd of like who's sitting in the audience, but wow, like this was like this has been like the most helpful pitch event that like we've ever attended. Like so many people that are actually like relevant, either like investors or customers who came, to us after the pitch saying, oh, or actually also like potential partners, like and we got some invites also to the New York Climate Week, like from that event. It's like, oh, you should come here and here. Just incredibly helpful that we are some of the conversations, like we're still like going forward, and I'm gonna go and talk with a potential partners and their client network in a couple of weeks with key customers and industrial partners, and with some investors that we are now following, or that follow along as we are progressing towards our next round. Yeah, that was like, yeah, I'd say like the surprise that comes to my mind. And then challenging, I'm gonna say the fact that we're on the West Coast and the
Mhm.
program is run from the East Coast, and neither my co-founder nor I are morning persons. Like we are night owls, and like it's painful to be waking up like for a 7 a.m. call when
Mhm.
your body tells you to sleep. This is more like a practical challenge, but yeah, just
No, it's valid
highlighting if
though.
anybody's on West
Yeah.
Coast.
Very valid. And as you know, we have a managing director and a director. Our director,
Yes.
Jenny Leong, is out on the West Coast as well. And we definitely heard that, and a lot of our curriculum we're going to be starting at 10 a.m. Eastern, or at 11 a.m.
Ooh,
Sorry, 11 a.m. Eastern. So
nice.
7, 8. So you get a little extra slumber there for your, because
Yeah.
I'm a night owl as well, so I feel your pain.
Yeah, but then on the other hand, like, like as a startup, you're like, there's funding, like, you do anything you could do, like
Yeah.
to survive. So like it wasn't really a challenge. It was more like, yeah. So, but it's just
No,
it was the thing that came to my mind.
no, I
But glad to
appreciate
hear that
it.
there's some changes.
Yeah, I
Don't
appreciate
tell
yeah, I appreciate everyone's transparency there. Sorry, what was that, Gianluca?
when I went to on holiday in China, I was taking meetings overnight because there is a 12-hour difference with Eastern time. So I was up until 4 or 5 a.m. Taking meetings in the East Coast while in Beijing or Chengdu. So
Yeah,
it's
no, I
right.
yeah, totally heard. And we have teams globally, right? And so a lot of the European and and Asian time zones, we try to find a good balance there. So, and it's something that we're open to change each cohort depending on the demographics of where we're at. Okay, so there was one last question I wanted to ask, and then there's some that came in the Q&A, so I'm going to open it up for attendees to ask. But if you all can be concise to keep time for outside questions, is what advice would you give someone considering applying to venture for climate tech? And we can leave it off there and then transition. So whoever wants to go first, unmute and the mic is yours.
Uh, I can go. I'd say I think one of the key aspects that made us get into the program was that we showed a passion behind the technology that we had. I think halfway through our interview, somebody asked like a very sensitive question about the technology, and I just got really excited about sharing like where it was coming from, the impact that it was having. No numbers. I didn't talk about greenhouse gas emissions. I didn't talk about any of that. I just talked about the human impact of the technology and how it was going to help. And so I think actually Scott and Sharon were the people that interviewed us, and they just saw that through us, and I think that's one of the reasons we got accepted. So I would, if my recommendation is to truly show why you're working on what you're working in the interview, as however you can, just bring it into any of the questions they ask you.
Well, I have a quick one. Just like go apply. Like it's a great program. There's non-dilutive funding. There's, surprising elements of also, the network and what it can, bring to you in just one event. Like that was yeah, still very surprising. Well, we were obviously fundraising at the same time, so like we had been pitching a lot to different people. So for sure it's helpful if you have a concise story and a pitch together. It will be evolving over time, but to deliver the message, it's helpful if you practice that several times before that.
Great. Thanks, Pauliina. All right, Gianluca, any advice?
Be completely open. I mean, tell them what's good and what's wrong and what worries you, because this way they can help you. Otherwise, I don't know, if people don't know what's going wrong, nobody can help you fix it, and they are on your side. It's not like talking to a VC where they will ask questions to say, "Aha, you see this." This is the issue that I find. They are really great people, so don't be worried.
Yeah, I love that little tidbit there, Gianluca. And yeah, just we really push for transparency. I couldn't say it any better than y'all. But anyways, we've had some questions roll in through the Q&A function. We have 15 minutes, so if any of you who are viewing have any questions, please throw them in the Q&A. And I did catch Rob your question in the chat, so I'll capture that as well. But looking over at the Q&A, so we have a question for the alumni from an anonymous attendee. Aside from the non-dilutive funding that V4C provides or looking for dilutive funding, did any of you seek non-dilutive grants, and from where? I think some of you have mentioned it already, but maybe if you can reiterate. And I'll let you all jump in and answer.
I mean, I think we are all constantly looking for non-dilutive funding. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer answer. So, depends on what you guys do. For us, it was ARPA-E, DOE, DOD, who else? Two of the hydrogen hubs. What other applications? SBIR. Yeah, that should be pretty much it.
Yeah. For us, it was mostly like state agency that provide pilot funding mostly, because the technology was already at a level that we didn't necessarily had to like reinvent the wheel and go for like NSF SBIRs. So basically, they actually one of the opportunities we received, one of the people in the V4C team sent it to us, and we applied and we got it awarded. And in the application, it literally said like, as one of the strengths in our application was that we had participated in the Venture for Climate Tech program. So we were very surprised about that and how that helped us get the grant. And I would say, yeah, a big part of the program is it's finding all of those non-dilutive sources, because they tend to be a little bit more reliable than dilutive.
Yeah. For us, we applied and got funding from Activate and /Cyclotron Road. So I recommend. I know the applications are now ongoing, so good luck if anybody is in the application process. And if not, consider applying next year or this year when the applications open again in fall. For sure, then we've been also part of the Cradle to Commerce program. It's backed by the DOE. We have also a grant from CalSeed, that's a California Energy, Commission grants, so some state grants, but for sure, like ARPA-E, DOE, NSF, those are, good places to be looking for grants.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a bit of a, tumultuous view in the sense of federal-based grants there, but we keep soldiering on and keep getting those applications out there. And, as all the team mentioned, we really try, though, prepare you to talk to investors and really go into that and how to pitch effectively and things of that sort. We also really stress and push finding and accessing non-dilutive sources. Okay, the next question I believe is just for me here, not for the panelist. It is from Ina, also goes by E. So E asks, I'm the co-founder and CEO of L-Power. Does V4C accept only hardware tech, or do you accept software as well? If you go on our website, you'll see we have accepted software in the past, especially if it's incorporated with some sort of innovative deep tech or hard tech in that sense. I would lean into suggesting just apply and be very transparent in what your product is. We don't draw a line in the sand there, though we do tend to lean more towards deep tech. We don't completely rule out taking in software companies. So yeah, answered. Okay, this is a two-parter, and the first one is for the three of you, so I'm going to start with that. For anyone who can answer, how is the process to find a proper industrial partner? Any tricks you learn which can expedite the process?
Well, I can start that we are still in the process of finding the right industrial partners. It's a continuous process and it requires a ton of just meeting a lot of people, like putting yourself out there, doing just like direct contacting, cold emailing, or on LinkedIn reaching out, also attending specific events. Conferences are great. They're the best. Like I've been attending some random, or they're not random, but like for me, conferences that I didn't know previously, like a cement conference or a glass conference. Now I'm going also to a steel conference. Super helpful. Stuff that really accelerates the decision making in an organization is to get a buy-in for what you want to do with them from a high up, and they point it down to a team that will actually then do it. But it's typically industrial organizations are very hierarchical, so getting a buy-in from very high up from the get-go does accelerate things from our experiences.
Yeah, I would say we're going through a similar experience, and because of that, we've extended our timeline to actually finding the right partners because we'll need multiple. So we're basically doing precast architectural product manufacturing, and we want to tap directly into the traditional concrete manufacturing that is a huge pollutant in every city. So basically, we are going to need not just one, we're going to need multiple in different regions. So we've extended our timeline to actually achieving that. And what we're doing basically is just adapting the technology in-house to match the exact same process that these industrial partners would already do, because otherwise they're very old school and it's very hard for them to even adapt like one little change in the process. So if we as a company can adapt our process to their process, we found that it will make it much cheaper, much better, and it may actually give us great margins. So that's also part of the go-to-market strategy that the program helps you with, is like understanding all of these obstacles, because just like Pauliina said, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of outreach, it's a lot of product development, as well as funding, because all of this is expensive as well. So in conferences, I agree with you. They're a great deal. Most of our pilot programs and traction has come from conferences.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You really do.
and apart
Yeah.
from
Oh, go
that,
ahead, Gianluca.
also word of mouth, that worked a lot for me. And as a trick, just go and meet in person with whoever you're talking to. You cannot establish a partnership unless you have met the the person on the other side and go get a beer, offer them lunch. It's like dealing with an investor. At the end of the story, you are going to get married to this person or company, and you need to find if they are a good fit for you. Start with one and then get multiple. Simple.
Amazing advice, y'all. Okay, there's a few that are for me, so I'm gonna run through those and then throw a few more y'all's way as we're wrapping up here. We also had someone ask how many Venture for Climate Tech companies apply for our Scale program. So just quickly, we have a sister program called Scale for Climate Tech, and they focus in their namesake more on scaling up manufacturing. There is a bit of a gap in the sense of when teams finish our program and when they're ready for Scale. And so we've seen teams apply for Scale, and as we have more alumni and more time passes, we're seeing more venture teams apply for Scale. But I don't have a specific number of that, but there are teams that had gone on and done both and take advantage of both the programs. And then I had another question come in is, can you give an example of what New York lens means? Their company's not based in New York. So our companies don't need to be based in New York. Essentially, when we say a New York lens, is there has to be a market for your technology in New York State. We usually use an example of if it's maybe an island nation-based solution, which are amazing, but maybe leverage a raw natural resource that is more available in island nations. New York, there wouldn't really be an application here in New York. That's just one example. But if you feel like your product, your technology or innovation has a market in New York, then definitely apply. Okay, here's a good question for y'all. It sounds like the program has many great aspects such as pitch day, individual coaching, fundraising support, etc. It sounds like some of you were also in other accelerators before. What was different about Venture for Climate Tech compared to the other accelerators that you participated in, either before or after?
I can take this, being in plenty. The difference is how they help you one-on-one. It's something that I've not seen in any other accelerators. I mean, I'm excluding the Breakthrough Energy Fellowship. That is something that they have definitely way more resources, so they give you a ton of support. But if we just look at the accelerators, it's something that usually you find only part that you find here in this program, that is the webinars, but the one-on-one coaching every week, it's quite rare. And they really put effort in understanding your tech, understanding how they can help. They ask you literally what they can do, what introductions they can make. So it's like having consultants that you don't have to pay for. Actually, advisors. Sorry, not consultants.
Yeah, I'm gonna second that. Every week we talk about successes, challenges, needs, objectives, metrics, and I think that is just essential, especially which might be overlooked successes. Sometimes like we go through weeks having tiny wins, but then we don't track them, and it's just like a month passes by and we're like, what did we do? Like we don't remember. So one of the things is like even those tiny successes, we track them all, we document them, we talk about them, and that allows us to understand our rate of innovation, understand where we're going, understand their go-to-market strategy, and like Gianluca said, they really know what's going on with your company and they remember. I have no idea how they do it because they meet with basically 20 companies, but they remember everything that's going on with your company. And it's essential for actually guiding the team forward.
Yeah, it's funny that you two mentioned the exact same thing that I was gonna say. Like, yeah, it's like I don't think in any other program that we've been part of or are part of that there's been this weekly like coaching basically, which is just super helpful when you're like going through. There's always some new challenges that like also like as like first time founders in the shoes of like being VC backed, you're tackling with whole new other like set of challenges that I wasn't dealing with my consultancy when it was just me building that company. So it's yeah, that's super helpful.
Awesome. Well, we are wrapping up here. We weren't able to get to all the questions here, but I want to make sure to respect everyone's time and not go over. But just one more thanks to the three of y'all for joining. Y'all were amazing participants. It's a little treat that I got to hang out with you here for an hour and chat. But thank you all so much for joining and giving this valuable information. For everyone who joined and has been watching the webinar, thank you so much. Please reach out to us with any questions. I believe Chris dropped a note in the chat to a link to our website where you can really jump into more additional information and get it, reach out to us with specific questions. And then again, an elongated slide deck that really gives a solid overview of the program will be sent out to each one of you. But on that note, again, Gianluca, Manny, Pauliina, thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Always nice to see you.